Another medal, and your tweet says it's a miracle that you even got here. You've had another battle with Crohn's over the last 18 months, and potentially even thought your career was over. So tell me how you're feeling now, having kind of managed to get out here and come away with another medal for your collection.
I don't think it's sunk in yet, to be honest. I think I've actually not watched what happened yesterday. I think it would take me probably a while to kind of reflect on kind of how I performed. I know I performed very well, considering. I just have to kind of pretty appreciate what I did yesterday. I think right now everything's a little bit kind of raw and new.
And I mean, tell us a little bit about the battle that you had to come through beforehand then, and quite how bad this got, if you were saying there that you thought maybe your career was over.
So after the Rio Paralympics, I think probably December time, I probably had a massive flare, and we tried to come back. I thought I was kind of recovering, and then I flared again, and that put me back a long way. I thought after the second flare, it was hard. It was really hard for me to keep fighting. I thought, I've had to do this 5 times in my career. How much more can I take? And it was probably then that I thought, you know what, maybe it's probably time that I did, kind of walk away. I thought, well, I've just won a Paralympic medal. I've got the whole set. Am I happy with this sort of thing? And I realised that, I could walk away and be happy. At the same time, that Paralympic gold medal has always been something that I wanted, and it was worth fighting for, and that's why I fought it.
I mean, you're somebody that knows all about adversity right from the start. I've been reading a bit about your story. If you don't mind, we can sort of take it right back and just tell us a little bit about the background in Lebanon, what the doctor said to you said to your parents when you were born.
Yeah, so basically when I was born, the doctor kind of took my dad aside and said, look, you've got a disabled baby. He's got no chance really of having a normal life. We could kind of kill him off, sort of thing. Which right now, that would be ridiculous, right? But back then, in a war-torn country, it happens. And my parents decided that for me to have the best life, they need to get away, and luckily we did.
And so then you came over to the UK and moved to Tottenham, and then something else happened. I mean, obviously having no legs is the norm for you, but the Crohn's struck, and it struck pretty hard, life-threatening surgery in 2010. Yeah,
so I got sick the night before I competed at the Beijing Paralympic Games, not knowing what was going on. I thought I had a fever, but it wasn't really a fever because my stomach was really hurting. I'd lost 3 kilos overnight. I was going to pull out, but I decided that it took an effort to get there, and I thought I'd just compete anyway. And yeah, it turned out to be Crohn's, and that was, for me, it was life-changing because I didn't think it was going to be this hard to battle it. Even though the doctor at the time said, this is going to be ridiculously hard. He goes, at the time, no Crohn's sufferers ever medalled at the Olympics or Paralympics, so I knew my kind of task was really, really difficult.
And then we got on to London 2012. You sort of battled to get to that point, and then there was the controversy over the medal. So, I mean, sort of take us from that point, because that must have been a real low. And then, again, I think you were thinking about your career at that point. But then, this is just the latest in a great sort of series of successes that happened since then.
Yeah, I think going into 2012, I had to kind of battle so hard just to make it. That I was probably naive enough to think that I needed a little bit of luck, and I thought I was naive enough to kind of think I deserved it a little bit. So going to the games, it got to the lift where it was either a silver or nothing, and I've always kind of, looking back at it now, I still think I got the lift. I still think the refereeing was a little bit kind of inconsistent on the day, but sometimes you have to take that. Sometimes in a subjective sport, it's going to happen, and you have to kind of accept it. But at the time, I couldn't accept it at the time because it took so. It was so hard to get there. It was really, and I thought I kind of deserved it, and to be denied like that, it hurt.
And then, you sometimes pitch yourself to think you were at that point, and then, you look at, you said you completed the set and the various medals that you've had since then. Can you sometimes quite believe it?
If you ask me, after 2012, Well, if you told me after 2012 that I was going to complete the set within 4 years, I probably would have laughed at you, because at the time I was in a very bad place. I'd fled again for my Crohn's disease, and I was probably not in love with the sport anymore. So I was on the verge of walking away. If it wasn't for supportive people around me to try and convince me, I probably wouldn't have carried on. So looking back at it now, I've done very well. I've done very well to kind of to come back.
And then just finally looking ahead to the future. I mean, like I say, it's another medal in the collection, but I'm sure you've got future targets. Are we looking at Tokyo? Tell me about that.
Well, after Rio, I promised myself that this cycle was all about one medal, and that was going to be Tokyo. Everything that I wanted to do in the lead up to it was going to be how I peaked for it. And unfortunately, I didn't expect to flare again. I've had obviously nearly 2 years out, so I've had to kind of start the process from scratch now. So I've only got 2 years and half the cycle to do it in. It's going to be very difficult, but I know what I need to do, and that and I know I can come back. I just have to kind of hope that I kind of stay healthy and be consistent, and hopefully I might challenge.
Let it sink in. What does it mean to you to win this one?
I think looking back at it, it's probably one of my greatest performances. Even weight-wise, it was something just kept on happening. I'm still recovering now. I'm not fully healthy. It's going to take a while. I think hopefully I might be kind of fully healthy probably the next 6 months. So yeah, I'm still recovering.
You kind of knew coming in that just being here was a medal in itself, wasn't it? And to get that something tangible to show for your efforts is amazing. But I'm sure the best inside of you is this one to get back to what you were lifting for and moving ahead to sort of Paralympics and things like that. What's next for you once you obviously get the important thing for to fulfill?
For me, it's a challenge that I've got to in Tokyo. It's the one goal that I've dreamt of. I've won the Europeans, won the Worlds. It's the one that I want the most in. That's the whole thing. I can't be ill. If I am sick, I probably won't even make it. So that's how hard the task is right now.
And talk to me about that battle. What sort of lift do you think it will need to lift that guy together?
Legend in our sport, especially in the lightweights, and I'm going to need that just to even have a chance to beat him. So yeah, it has to be something good. That's the be my recovery, and they check me every day. They go above and beyond, just to make sure that I'm okay. And if it wasn't for them and my family, my friends, they're rallying behind me. Because sometimes I do doubt myself, especially when it keeps happening. You need other people to say, actually, not believe in you. You've done it before, you can do it again. I'm here to support you, and that's what it gives me.
Okay,